Welcome to Joe Stunner Boxing. Good morning. I have my mug of tea. I've not long been up. And what I normally do when I wake up is I read all the comments. I do this sort of before I go to bed, and then in the morning, if there's too many, I'll read the remainder in the morning. But there was one comment left by, I'm not sure how to pronounce this gentleman's name. It's at Rimonimode, and then there's some numbers after it. Look, you know who you are, mate. I don't know how you pronounce your handle, but you know who you are. But this gentleman said, have you seen the full Don Charles interview over at BoxNation? And I hadn't. And I watched it. And so this video is kind of a little follow-up to the Don Charles video that I left a few days ago, which said that, what a class act Don Charles is. And he is, as far as I'm concerned. I think he genuinely cares about his fighters. And I think he's one of life's good guys. I think he is a guy who, at the end of his life, will do what I always think we should all do, and that is leave behind more good than bad. Now, he's a very religious man as well. He frequently says, God is great or God is good or something like that. That's fine. He's a religious man. But he strikes me. I watched the whole interview. It's about 50 minutes long, and he strikes me as being someone who, perhaps because of his faith, in his head thinks, I should be thinking this way, I should be doing this. But as a result of that, sometimes the emotion and what's inside gets, it's so contained, it's, packaged away or packed away, maybe put in a suitcase and put on top of the wardrobe, metaphorically speaking. So, but ultimately, if you have a great deal of emotion and you don't get an outlet for it, there's going to be that pressure cooker effect, and it's going to explode. And I got the feeling in this interview that this happened with Don, because he talked extensively about people who've wronged him, people who in the industry have said things about him, not just him, because at one point he said, well, I don't care what anyone thinks about me. With respect, Don, I think you do to some degree, because your reaction was one of, to say that you were irate is perhaps understating it. But I do also believe him when he says, he doesn't like it when people slag off his fighters. So he had a go at Ben Davison, who he wasn't happy with, because Davison Davison said, well, we can effectively end this fight, meaning Joshua, whenever we choose. So Don took that as an insult, and he said, who are you? Who are you to say that? He was saying, I've done my 20 years of managing fighters, taking them to area level, and then up to English, British, Commonwealth, European, and now world. I've served my apprenticeship for 20 years. That's true, I think. That's true. Don's in his 60s. And then he also, the interviewer mentioned Spencer Fearon, and he said, I don't want to hear that name ever, ever. Which is interesting, because Spencer has praised Don, claims that Don Charles, he actually kind of he begged the, I think he says that he begged the Dubois team not to fire Don after the Usyk fight, and he says he likes Don, he respects Don, and so Don's reaction to that is curious, because even though Spencer has said good things about him, Don does not even want to hear the name mentioned, not at all. I don't want to hear that name mentioned, he says. And there are other things that he alluded to. He said a former fighter who said things about Dubois that he wasn't happy with, a former fighter, and he really looked irate. I mean, the expression on the face, very angry, body language very tense. And the interviewer said, do you want to tell us who the fighter is? And Don said, I think no comment, or something along those lines. So clearly in this interview, the emotion came out. And that's the interesting thing, because, as I said a moment ago, whether you can be religious, you can be, a more secular. But if you've got this idea that in your head, I'm going to do the right, I'm going to do the right thing. And sometimes the right thing is not the thing we want to do, and it's not the thing that's easiest. It's the thing that we know in here is the right thing to do. And we do it. It's kind of like walking away. If someone in the street acts the fool, they're drunk and they want to have a fight with you, and you walk away. Oh, you coward! We've all been there. No, I'm not a coward. I just don't want to take time out of my life to deal with a prick, which is what you are. But at the same time, there's a bit inside you thinks I should have chinned this guy. Do you know what I mean? I'm sure we've all been. Well, a lot of us have been there, and I think Don has done that. He has that attitude. He has that mentality. People have been saying things about me and my fighters for years. Oh, I'm not happy, but I'm not going to have a go. I'm not going to bite. I'm not going to be triggered, as the young people say nowadays. But finally, on the back of this monumental victory for Daniel Dubois, he probably now feels completely vindicated, and he can say, right, you bunch of sods, now I'm going to say what I really think. And even then, like I say, a couple of times he said, no comment. So he's still trying to hold back a little bit. It's almost like he was trying to put the boot in, but not give you as much of a kicking as you deserve. You know what I mean? And I thought the whole interview was really fascinating. So go over and have a look at it. It's on BoxNation. Like I say, it's about 45, 50 minutes long, but well worth your time. Because I think it's an insight into an underappreciated, unfashionable trainer who probably deserves a lot more credit than people give him. Yeah. And he does seem to be quite loyal to not just his fighters, but to the team, the whole team. He mentioned his team, went through them. Kieran Farrell, I think, deserves a shout out as well. I think Kieran, considering he had bad injury, his contest with Anthony Crolla, had to have brain surgery, came back as a small hall promoter, and now works with, he stayed in the industry, and he still helps fighters, and he was in the corner with Don. And Don, of course, he was ill. He was in bed for a couple of days. He was angry that people were saying things, that he'd been kicked out of the camp and everything, and making crap up. And I think last week we had to sort of bear that in mind, that he could have been. It could be more than just him being ill, But I think as it turned out, no, as usual, the conspiracy theorists were wrong. But what do you think of this interview? Go over and have a look. And if you're interested in the psychology and the mentality of people, how they work, how they operate, how they try to remain civilized even though they want to get down and dirty, go and have a look at this interview. It is very, very interesting, and let me know what you think. All right, ladies and gentlemen, hope you have a lovely day. Looking out the window, I think the weather wasn't great, but then we are nearly at the end of September, so oh god, dark nights. I'm not a fan of the dark nights, put it that way. Anyway, much love to you. I'll look forward to reading your comments, and bye bye for now.